Good morning. Welcome back to the garden today. This is Rachel gardening here in A5, just a block off of Lake Michigan. Today we are going to be planting our Lisianthus. So here we have my Lisianthus that I started from seed. Initially, when I planted these in December, I had 100% germination. I did 32 of the Roseanne Brown and 32 of the Black Pearl. So this is a brown, pinky browny purple that truly does look antique. And then this one, Black Pearl, is just this deep, dark, rich purple. It's lovely. And I'm so entertained by these Lisianthus in how not difficult they are to grow, but how long they take to grow. Because I'll say it again, I started these at the end of December. And this is as big as they've gotten. And if you look at some of them, they're incredibly small still, especially the Black Pearls. They are much smaller than my Roseanne Browns. I would even say that they've gotten twice as big as what they were a week ago once I started the hardening off process. So last Saturday is when I started hardening these off. The weather here has been incredibly warm, so hardening off was not difficult. The hard part was definitely not just planting them and following the rules. And I appear to be rewarded by following the rules by how big these guys have gotten, and then these third leaves popping up. That's a big change. So my plan is to put these in my raised bed garden where I have most of my cut flowers. And I am going to put them in my summer bed just because these will take another 2 to 3 months to be ready to pick. That I am planting to use. I have 2 perennial mums here that are a gorgeous peach color. I also tried something new last year where I left the roots of my annuals as a way to keep the soil here into the bed and for as much as possible to decompose. These were zinnias and their root systems are generally huge. So trying to reduce my soil disturbance. You can even see the positive. You can't see it, but there is a worm right there where I had that root. So again, trying to maintain a good soil structure. I'm going to start here with my Black Pearls. And what you'll see is that this little guy has an amazing root system. This is what it's spending all of its time doing. Instead of growing big, pretty growth like what you would see in a zinnia, you get to see how much it's doing here, and we're even circling at the bottom. So awesome news. This itty bitty little guy. Let's see what we got here. I'm hopeful that it has a nice root system. Not bad. Again, another huge system. I tend to be more careful if I pull everything out first before I start planting and then pulling, alternating. I don't know why. That is what I have noticed I do. Also, the way that I'm going to set these up, you're not going to see it very well on this size because they're so small, but you definitely will on my Roseanne Browns, is, and I'll show you earlier in the video than at the end, is that I want these guys to hold each other up. So, like what I've shared in other videos, the square flower method is in 1 foot. I want 9 plants. So 3, 3, and 3. This is my foot. So I'm going to go here and here. And I will just mirror that the rest of the way. Pretty little guy. This guy probably will not survive, but we will try anyway. I follow Blossom and Branch for a lot of tips for economical space and specific to cut flowers, being able to fit more in my minimal growing area that I have dedicated to cut flowers. So here's my first one done, and let's go ahead and move to the next. These guys are so little. I don't have a lot of hope, but babied them this far, so worth a try. And I also don't need 72. Love them, but nobody needs that money if you're not selling them. It might look like nothing. I'll do my next set of nice big ones. And that guy. These guys are super wet, so coming out as nicely as I'd want. And I'm just getting dirty. So again, space them out. See where I land. Perfect. And here, I actually have two. I'm going to keep them together just out of paranoia that they may not survive this transplant. These guys out of the way. Oh, that's exciting. I put in some aster seeds that I collected from last season and they have started to pop. Then in here I have a ton of poppies. So it's kind of nice to know what is starting to arrive and learn seasons. I've done poppies before, but I've direct sowed them and minimal success, as well as they bloomed at a very weird time last year. And for asters, I grew those for the first time last year too, and they were wonderful. I will take as many as I can get. All right, it's the same thing here. Shake off as much dirt as you can, and then I have some free tools. Good morning. Oh no! Wow. I saw that you picked up something like bronchitis, but I haven't seen you since we last talked. These are Lisianthus.
Sorry, what?
Lisianthus. I've been growing these since December, and this is how big they are. It's normal, but it's annoying. Nope. The only thing, these guys don't get stretched because they basically just do roots. That's like what they're doing all this time. The problem that they might have is that they might rosette and then never bloom. But they look great. I've been hardening them off for the last week, and it's like they doubled in size the last week because they got outside. So that was nice. Very exciting. You can actually get these at Milligers, and they're definitely not a buck. I've been trying to get pictures, so it's just my phone. Sorry. Well, of what things actually are, so that I can remember, because going through a journal is too hard. Can't find it. So I figured I would try take pictures of stuff as I'm going to try to remember things a little bit better of what worked, especially with how weird this season is. It is, but it feels like it's a little bit different this year. It's way earlier. It sure is. No, not at the time frame. We'll feel better. I will. Feel better. Oh, there we go. Some of these guys I did transplant as two seeds came up in one cell. So I'm going to guess that's why a handful have come out with shorter roots. Oh, I can't get this guy out. Okay. I'm going to get 9 more over here. Last season I had calendula here, so I was expecting to find lots of seeds of them, but it might be too early. Let's do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No complaints about the number of squares I've taken up, but I don't want to give up my zinnia spots, which are so here in this little bed will likely be my extras section, that plant section. But it's a nice little 2x2, and actually where I had planted my 18 or so Lisianthus from last year. And so I have to say, doing more than 4 square feet exceeds my goals and expectations for this season. So here we have these little babies, and then on over here, they're looking good. The bed is nice and wet, so I'm not worried about watering them in today because it is going to rain more later this afternoon, and I don't want them to be overwatered. But for prosperity, we have to the right the black pearl Lisianthus that goes about to the center, so just about 24. And if we move over here, we have another 3 sections of Roseanne Brown Lisianthus, which are much bigger and healthier and gonna do great. All right, we got that done. So happy to have you as part of the start of the spring and summer gardening season, where we've got our Lisianthus planted, and we'll be watching and waiting for it to bloom.